but Nick's expression turns thoughtful, his gaze lingering on Jungkook. I get that you've got your own things, Kook. Everyone has their secrets. But sometimes I wonder if there's more to this than what you're telling me. He pauses, his voice gentle but laced with concern. I care about you, and I just want to understand. Jungkook feels the familiar pang of guilt knotting in his stomach, and Yoongi's words echo in his mind. Nick deserves more than being a placeholder. He takes a shaky breath, torn between the truth and the safety of his half-truths. Nick, it's complicated. It's not that I don't want to be open with you. I don't know if you'd really get it. Nick's brows furrow, a hint of frustration seeping through. Try me. You might be surprised. His tone is firm, and there's a vulnerability in his gaze, like he's silently asking for the honesty he's been patiently waiting for. Jungkook's hands fall to his sides, his defenses weakening. He knows this is the moment to finally take the leap, to stop hiding behind walls and excuses. All right, he whispers, more to himself than to Nick. There's someone from my past. Someone who, for better or worse, still has a hold on me. Nick's expression tightens, but he nods, encouraging Jungkook to continue. I didn't mean for it to still affect me, but it does, Jungkook admits, his voice wavering. I'm here with you, and I want to give us, a real shot. But I haven't fully let go of him. It's like a ghost that's always there, lingering in the back of my mind. Nick takes a slow breath, absorbing Jungkook's words. So, all this time, I've just been a distraction. No, Jungkook responds quickly, panic flashing across his face. Nick, you're so much more than that. You're real, and that's what scares me. I've been clinging to the past because it feels safe, familiar. But you're everything I could actually have, and that terrifies me. Nick's gaze softens, though hurt still lingers. I appreciate your honesty, Koo. But I need to know if you're ready to leave the past where it belongs. I can't be in a relationship where I'm competing with memories. Jungkook swallows, his heart racing as he processes Nick's words. He realizes this is it, the choice Yoongi had urged him to make. Nick, he says, his voice trembling but determined, I want to let go of him. I want to give this a real shot. But I can't promise it'll be easy. Nick reaches out, taking Jungkook's hand. I don't need easy, Kook. I just need real. But if you're still half in the past, I can't be the only one holding us together. Jungkook nods, the gravity of the situation settling over him. He knows he's standing at the edge of something new, something terrifying yet full of potential. And for the first time, he's willing to take the risk. As Jungkook steps out into the cool night air, a wave of emotions crashes over him, echoing Nick's words and the warmth of his touch. He feels the tension between the world he's leaving behind and the one he's walking into, each step weighted with the secrets he's not yet ready to reveal. He knows the pain of his double life, the thrill and the danger, but the thought of Nick's soft smile and the gentle way he held him keeps tugging at him. As he makes his way to the club, his mind replays Nick's tender, yet charged, farewell. He could still feel the weight of Nick's hand on his back, the warmth of his breath at his ear. But then his thoughts shift, and the reality of his other life settles in. The dimly lit club, the carefully crafted persona, and the hidden parts of himself he hasn't been able to shed. Inside the club, the familiar faces and flashing lights welcome him, but tonight, something feels different. Even the allure of the crowd and the thrill of performance can't fully drown out the memory of Nick's touch, nor the words Yoongi had spoken days earlier. urging him to choose a path before he loses everything. Jungkook can't help but wonder, is he ready to let go of the only life he's known, or is he fated to continue dancing between worlds, one foot in the darkness of his past, the other hesitantly stepping toward the light that Nick offers? As he prepares for his performance, he catches his own reflection in the mirror, a silent plea in his gaze. The night, he realizes, isn't just another performance. It's another chance to figure out who he truly wants to be, and whether he is ready to embrace the life Nick might help him build. The tension in the room swells as Mrs. Kim's words linger, wrapping around them like the rich aroma of the meal. Taehyung's fingers grip the stem of his glass, the crystal cool against his skin, grounding him as he weighs her advice against his own desires. "Compromise is one thing," he replies, his voice low but firm, "but suppressing who I am for the sake of legacy feels like a betrayal to myself. I refuse to live a life dictated by someone else's expectations." Mrs. Kim studies him, her expression shifting as the shadows dance across her face. "I understand your passion, Taehyung. But your father has given you everything, his support, his name, his connections. Don't you owe it to him to at least consider his perspective?" Taehyung shakes his head, frustration bubbling to the surface. "I appreciate what he's done for me, but his vision of my life isn't mine. You know that I want to forge my own path, even if it means stepping away from the family's traditional expectations." The flicker of candlelight seems to echo the flicker of uncertainty in Mrs. Kim's eyes. What if your path leads you to loneliness? To a life devoid of the love and support that family can provide? "I'd rather be alone and authentic than surrounded by people who don't understand me," he declares, the conviction in his voice resonating with a deep-rooted truth. A moment of silence stretches between them, the weight of their conversation settling in the air. Mrs. Kim breaks the tension with a soft sigh, her demeanor softening slightly. "I admire your courage, truly. But please, don't dismiss the possibility of reconciliation. Families are complicated, and healing takes time." "Reconciliation?" Taehyung scoffs slightly, the sound bitter. "What does that even look like when he refuses to acknowledge the person I've become?" Mrs. Kim leans back in her chair, her fingers tracing the rim of her glass. "Perhaps it starts with communication. An open dialogue about your needs, your desires, and your dreams. It may be difficult, but it's worth attempting before severing ties completely." Taehyung contemplates her words, the flicker of hope mingling with the shadows of doubt in his heart. "And if he still doesn't accept me, then you'll know you've tried," Mrs. Kim replies gently. "And you can pursue your happiness without the burden of regret. But until then, don't abandon the family that loves you, flaws and all." As the candle flickers once more, illuminating the complexities of their discussion, Taehyung feels the weight of her words settle within him. The conflict remains, but perhaps there's a path forward, a way to honor both his individuality and his roots. "Thank you, Mrs. Kim," he says, his voice softening. "For understanding, even when it feels impossible." She smiles, a warmth returning to her eyes. "We're in this together, Taehyung. Always." The atmosphere lightens slightly, a shared understanding hanging in the air. They finish their meal in a more comfortable silence, the glow of the candles casting a serene light on their faces, illuminating not just the room but also the fragile hope that perhaps, just perhaps, they could navigate these troubled waters together. Mrs. Kim's expression hardens at Taehyung's defiance, her eyes narrowing as the tension in the room intensifies. "Your so-called true self is tarnishing everything we've worked for," she retorts, her voice clipped. This isn't just a personal journey, it's a betrayal. The words hang in the air, heavy and charged. Taehyung clenches his fists under the table, fighting the urge to lash out. I never wanted to hurt you or undermine what we've built. But I can't ignore who I am anymore. Living a lie is more suffocating than any expectation. Mrs. Kim leans back, crossing her arms, the flickering candlelight reflecting in her narrowed eyes. So this is your answer? To tear apart everything we've created for a fleeting moment of authenticity? Her tone drips with sarcasm. You think being true to yourself means disregarding our life together? It's not about disregarding it, Taehyung replies, exasperation creeping into his voice. It's about evolving. We've both changed, and pretending otherwise is killing me. Evolving, she scoffs, disbelief lacing her words. You're willing to toss away stability and respect for what? Temporary satisfaction? You may feel alive now, but what about when the thrill fades? Taehyung meets her gaze, his expression steady. I'd rather face that uncertainty than live a life of quiet desperation. Do you honestly believe that ignoring my true feelings will lead to a happy future for either of us? The air between them crackles, thick with unspoken frustrations and the weight of their history. Mrs. Kim's fingers tap rhythmically against the table, her mind racing as she processes his words. And what if this thrill you're chasing is just a phase? What if you wake up one day and realize you've lost everything for nothing? That's a risk I have to take, Taehyung responds, his voice firm but softer now, almost pleading. I need to discover who I am without the constraints of expectations weighing me down. I can't do that if I keep pretending. Mrs. Kim's expression shifts, a flicker of vulnerability breaking through her steely facade. And what does that mean for us, Taehyung? For our future? Her voice wavers, the mask of confidence slipping just enough to reveal the worry underneath. I don't know, he admits, the honesty in his tone piercing through the tension. But I can't keep dragging you into my conflict. It wouldn't be fair to either of us. Her silence stretches out, each second feeling like an eternity as she processes his admission. Finally, she speaks, her voice quieter now, tinged with hurt. So, what are you saying? That this is it? That we're at an impasse? I'm saying we need to be honest with ourselves, Taehyung replies, the vulnerability evident in his tone. Maybe it's time for us to reassess what we truly want. I don't want to keep you in a situation that makes you unhappy because of my struggles. Mrs. Kim's eyes glistened with unshed tears, the facade of control slipping away. I thought we were in this together, Taehyung. I thought we could weather anything as long as we worked as a team. But now it feels like you're distancing yourself, choosing to prioritize your desires over our shared life. I'm not distancing myself, I'm trying to find clarity, he replies, desperation creeping into his voice. I need to be honest about my needs, and that includes the possibility of redefining our relationship. It's about creating a space where we can both be true to ourselves. The weight of his words settles heavily between them, and for a moment, the candlelight seems to flicker, mirroring the uncertainty in their hearts. Mrs. Kim's voice is barely above a whisper. And what if that space means walking away from each other? Taehyung's heart aches at the thought, the very idea causing a knot to form in his stomach. Then we'll have to face that too. But I refuse to stay in a situation that feels suffocating. I want both of us to be happy, even if it means making painful decisions. The two sit in silence, the air thick with tension and unspoken fears. Outside, the city continues its relentless rhythm, oblivious to the turmoil brewing within their walls. The candle flickers, casting shadows that dance like memories, fragile, beautiful, and now uncertain. Taehyung's heart pounds in his chest at Mrs. Kim's venomous words, each accusation hitting like a physical blow. "You don't understand anything about him," he snaps, unable to contain the anger bubbling within him. "Jungkook is not just some distraction, he's someone I connect with. He sees me for who I truly am, not the mask I've worn for everyone else." Mrs. Kim's eyes narrow, a cold smile creeping onto her lips. But isn't that just the allure of the forbidden? You're trading a stable life for a fleeting moment of connection. And how long do you think that will last before the thrill wears off, leaving you with nothing but regret? Taehyung leans forward, his voice low but fierce. "Regret? I'd rather live with the risk of regret than continue to smother my true self. You speak as if I'm throwing everything away, but maybe what I'm really doing is reclaiming my life." Mrs. Kim shakes her head, disbelief etched across her features. "Reclaiming? It sounds more like a childish tantrum than a brave journey. You think you can simply walk away from all of this, our life, our reputation, our stability, just for a fairy tale?" "Stop calling it a fairy tale," he snaps back, his patience fraying. "This isn't about an escape, it's about authenticity. I've spent too long pretending to be someone I'm not. I can't keep living in a shadow, suppressing my needs to maintain a facade for your comfort."